Vietnam has a number of war museums dedicated to the country's legendary struggle for independence, and one of the biggest of these is located to the west of the capital. Only recently opened to the public, the War Museum is housed in a large new building that is colossal in scale and comes complete with large museum grounds where military equipment of the war is held. From Hanoi's centre, this can easily be reached by bus from the Kim Ma bus station. As the museum had only recently celebrated its grand opening, entry was free at the time of recording this video. The museum is arranged with Vietnamese aircraft on one side and captured American on the other. Starting with the Vietnamese military collections first, there is a mixture of aircraft that would have served during the country's war with America and also aircraft that served after the war. One of the most famous defenders of the skies over Vietnam was the Mikoyan MiG-17 Fresco. This jet fighter development of the Mikoyan MiG-15 was seriously underestimated by American pilots, and the small but powerfully armed fighter managed to score many kills against much more advanced aircraft. Another all-metal Soviet-Russian designed aircraft in Vietnamese colours is the Sukhoi Su-22 Fighter. Joining the Vietnamese Air Force after the war, they are still to be found in active service at some air bases in Vietnam. Two twin-engine transport aircraft are the last aviation exhibits on this side of the museum grounds, these being an Antonov AN-26 and an Ilyushin IL-14. Delivered to the Air Force from 1958, the Vietnamese must have done a good job at keeping their Ilyushin IL-14 safe from prying eyes of the American pilots. The Antonov AN-26 has only recently left Vietnamese Air Force service, the last ones having been retired in 2019. There are plenty of other exhibits on show from this side of the museum grounds apart from the aircraft, from Soviet-supplied tanks used by the North Vietnamese Army to the trucks that made the daring runs along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to supply their forces. As you walk across the grounds to the opposite side, you are confronted by the spoils of war obtained by the victorious North Vietnamese. On one side of the museum are all the captured American and French pieces of equipment during Vietnam's struggle for reunification. the largest of these being the Lockheed C-130 Hercules. The Hercules served both the American and South Vietnamese Air Forces. This early model of the C-130 with three-bladed propellers retaining South Vietnamese Air Force markings. 55 American C-130 transports were lost during the Vietnam War, with an additional 2 South Vietnamese Hercules also destroyed. Out of around 8,500 aircraft and helicopters lost by the Americans during the war, significant portions of this number were the ubiquitous Bell UH-1 Huey helicopter. They were flown into the thick of battle and suffered very high losses as a result. Another US helicopter at the museum is an early model of the CH-47 Chinook, 132 of these distinctive twin-rotored helicopters being lost during the war, plus 10 South Vietnamese ones. After the Americans had left Vietnam and the South Vietnamese regime had collapsed, the North found themselves inheriting a large amount of American-made military equipment. The Vietnamese found quite a few American aircraft types were very useful, and as sufficient airframes and spares to maintain them had been captured, a number of them were put into service. A heavy-duty ground attack aircraft that saw extensive service, especially at the start of the war, was the Douglas A-1 Skyraider, the museum having both a single-seat and a multi-seat example of this aircraft. Some 256 Skyraiders from the US Air Force and the US Navy were lost during the war, in addition to 225 South Vietnamese A-1s. The last two aircraft on show within the captured equipment section are the Northrop F-5 Freedom Fighter and the Cessna A-37 Dragonfly. Vietnam made use of these in their post-war Air Force, where they served against Cambodia. Losses of these aircraft during the Vietnam War totaled 9 American and 250 South Vietnamese F-5s, and 22 USAF and 38 South Vietnamese A-37s. There were also American-made tanks, armoured personnel carriers and artillery pieces on this side too. The captured collection revolves around a striking sculpture made up of wreckage from American aircraft downed over Vietnam. Whilst an expert would probably be able to decipher what aircraft these came from, it is a poignant symbol of all the aircraft that went on a mission and never came back. A smaller and more artistically creative sculpture involving aircraft wrecks is found closer to the main museum entrance, the birds circling around this like vultures. Among the recognisable parts here is a canopy framework from one aircraft and a wing section with a large American Stars and Bars insignia. The museum building has many halls spread out across several levels that provides a wealth of information about the Vietnamese struggle for independence and unity. Rooms are divided into a certain conflict or aspect of the war, such as this panoramic display showcasing the Battle of Dien Bien Phu, Vietnam's decisive victory against the French. Among the military equipment displayed indoors is one of the tanks that smashed through the gates of the US Embassy of Saigon in 1975, and a display showing a Soviet-supplied truck in the Ho Chi Minh Trail diorama. There are also 2 more aircraft in sight, both of which are Mikoyan MiG-21 fish beds. The MiG-21 was the most advanced aircraft the Vietnamese mustered during the war, and many pilots became aces using this lightweight supersonic fighter. Even the USAF's mighty B-52s fell to the missiles of the MiG-21, these being the only fighter that could reach their altitude. SAM missiles also wreaked havoc amongst the American aircraft, and claimed the vast majority of over 30 Boeing B-52 Stratofortresses lost during the war. If you have enjoyed this video on the Hanoi War Museum, why not leave a like and follow my channel for more, and I'll bring you many more aviation museums from the rest of the world. However, until next time, see you around.